Hello, Mr. Mills. Here's a quick summary of our first lesson from the 26th. If you recall, I took some before swings and I talked to you about what you thought of your motion and what you wanted to work on and what you felt that you struggled with in your golf swing. Some of the things that we talked about that we really liked is I said you make a real nice shoulder turn and hip turn. Coming through, you end up releasing your hips nicely and your shoulders keep turning well. You were a little bit worried about kind of this, you kind of thought you were scooping at it here, which there might be a little bit of that, but like I said, that wasn't our biggest concern. When we're going to make changes in golf, we have to keep it simple and pick one thing that we feel is the most important at a time. So what we did see is the way that your left knee was working, where your ankle comes up a little in the backswing, and then your knee straightens very early in the downswing. And this is one of your before swings. On almost all your before swings, we didn't really take any turf, and if anything, we tended to brush the turf just behind the golf ball. So what we did after that, after taking those swings, we sat down, we talked about everything. Then you did a line drill with your 8-iron. And I drew a line on the ground, and you practiced bending your left knee more in the downswing and getting your weight more forward and striking the ground in front of the line, which by the end of your first run through, you had done 5 or 6 in a row where you hit the ground in front of the line. So here is one of those practice swings similar to the line drill. We can see your left knee doesn't travel quite as far back. You don't shift quite as much to your right, but you still create plenty of turn, plenty of power. And if we watch in the downswing here, you shift a little more forward better, and we can see a huge difference in the position of your hips, way more forward. Your left knee was almost straight in the before video. In this video, it has a significant amount of bend in it. So you caught the ball more on the center of the face when you made swings like this, and we can see a nice healthy divot flying from the ground. And if we watch here in this practice swing, that divot is taken just in front of that golf ball. And so, like I mentioned before, you were kind of worried that you were scooping at it a little bit. And as we can see, part of that scooped look is taken away when you start taking a divot, because the club crashes into the ground and it ends up decelerating everything a little bit differently, which is why I didn't want you to worry about that in the before videos. I knew it would change once we started hitting the ground. So here is a swing after we worked on the drills for a while. I apologize, the phone's ringing in the background. It's a little bit after 6, so I can't answer it. Let's see. So let's watch the backswing. Ankle comes up a little bit here. That's okay. The left knee still doesn't quite travel as far back, and the weight doesn't shift as much back. We watch the downswing. The hips move forward pretty nice. The knee's not quite as bent as when you were doing your practice swings, but the hips are definitely still more forward. It's still a little bit more bent than it was in the before videos. And if we watch, your divot starts basically right under the golf ball. You catch the ball in the center of the face, launches off nice and high. Again, we can see because you struck the turf, it doesn't have as much of that scoopy look in the left wrist. That was nothing to worry about once we started hitting the ground. And overall, the strike was more solid, the flight was a little bit higher, and it felt better. Now, the only snag we ran into is when we grabbed a 5-iron, there were some transfer issues between doing the drill and hitting actual golf balls, and we hit some real squirrely shots when you were practicing this with the 5-iron. So with the 5-iron, we changed our thinking a little bit to make it even more basic, and I basically took an alignment rod, and I might have put it even a little further out than that. I took an alignment rod and put it like 3 or 4 inches in front of your hip. So then when you were practicing with the 5-iron, your only goal, and we'll watch you accomplish it here, was to bump into that alignment rod that was placed in front of your hips. And you can see, had I put an alignment rod there in this swing, you would have bumped it and bent it just to the left with this 8-iron. And once we did that with the 5-iron, so you didn't have to focus so much on what your left knee was doing, so you could just kind of use that rod as an aid and a guide, you started hitting it much better, and it was much more transferable, excuse me. Alright, so that just about covers it for lesson 1. We focused on striking the ground every time, getting the hips a little bit more forward by bending the left knee, and then with the longer clubs, we only hit the 5-iron, but I would assume with the rest of the longer clubs, rather than thinking about the left knee, we should just stick the alignment rod in the ground and work on getting up to that. I still would like you to do the drill with the 8-iron where you draw the line on the ground and practice taking divots as well. And between those two things, I think you're going to significantly change your motion and start hitting the ball far more solid all the time. All right, Mr. Mills, I really enjoyed our first lesson. You did a very nice job. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.